Anyways, spawning in the top right hand side of Frost, it is going to be the red Zerg player, playing for Team Acer. It is Paranoid.
His opponent playing Protoss, they are cross positions this time, so he's now in the bottom left. Our blue Protoss player, it is Genius, all the way from Korea.
Yeah, absolutely, it is that genius, not just a genius, it is that genius. Because he was able to beat the STC in a game that I definitely also would have liked to watch. 2-1 I think was the score. And he's now going to face Paranoid, who also played pretty well again against Starnan in the previous game we saw.
Yeah, he certainly did. Looking like he has a really good handle on the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. Did drop that first game, a bit of a blunder, a couple of blunders costing him, including losing his entire army in one go for the cost of one mothership core and a zealot. But certainly the second two games played very convincingly and showed the results that I think he kind of felt like maybe he ought to have done from the start. So, Genius opting for very different in the way that he's positioning his stuff. We saw Starnan previously placing a gateway and pylon down at the choke point. Genius doesn't really worry about this kind of stuff. Maybe he feels confident going up against this, or maybe just thinks, well, this is such a big map, I think I can get away with it. Still, nonetheless, he has placed his gateway down and gotten a gas too, so would likely see a gateway expand coming out from him here.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other end of the map, we see a pretty standard 14 pool here, who will lead into a hatchery at 16, and there we go. There it is already thrown down here by Paranoid. So also no real anything aggressive coming out of him either, meaning that we will most likely see a longer game, not really just a 5-minute game.
Yeah. I mean, we had our bunker rush. Game 1, we saw No Name going for that 2-Rex, but the rest of the games have been relatively long, at least progressing into the mid-game, if not heading into the late game. We've seen a lot of different compositions being used as well, and this is not our first PVZ of the night, and probably won't be the last either, because we've got a lot of games to go.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think overall on the European servers, you have mostly Zerg and Protoss play, not really so many Terrans. Because really the good Terrans are actually situated in Korea, not really in Europe or North America. Yeah. And that's also the case why you see so many PvPs, CVPs or ZVZs on the European or North American servers. Of course, you also have a couple of Terrans, but not really as many. I think the racial distribution is something like 40% Protoss, 35 Zerg, and the rest is I think Terran or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I think it was distribution graphs on last season's Grandmasters, and it was really interesting. I mean, obviously a lot of people talk about how there is Terrans and then there's Korean Terrans, and as we see a Ling getting chased away here, you see a lot more Terrans, like you say, on the Korean server, where they've really got a handle on, I think, a lot of the micro and macro aspects of the game now. Genius did go for that gateway expand, and he's planted 2 more gateways in his natural. No 4-gate though, just content to stay on 3 gates for the time being, but he's chrono boosting his cyber core, his what gate research furiously. So I would expect to see him put on some pressure here. Does he actually know where his opponent's spawned? No, he hasn't, so he's been checking the spawning locations. And I would expect to see him pushing out across to the other side of the map now here with this quirky combination of a mothership core, a zealot, and a probe.
Yeah, I think he might go for some early aggression here with two gateways at home and warp gate finishing up here any moment. He should be able to transform in any second and start the onslaught. But of course, Paranoid knows about that, is already getting 20 Zerglings here. Of course, once again, has he started speed? No, he hasn't. Okay, so slow links, but with 20 links at a time, I think he should be in a good position to deal with that.
Yeah, he certainly will. Like we said earlier, it's not a 4-gate, just 3 gates, and he's currently only got 4 zealots and a mothership core, so he will have a recall. So he's certainly not fully committed to this assault. He can pull back if he needs to, and at the very least, much like we saw Starnan doing in the previous series, he's forced out a ton of lings in response to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Behind all of that, he will throw down his Stargate. Once again, not really planning on committing towards that. He poked in sort of 2 queens into the massive lings there and decided to go back. Stargate, as previously mentioned, going down, and also additional gateways are going down here for Genius. So he might be looking to transition into something similar we saw out of Starnin with those Phoenixes and maybe also a couple of Void Rays to be able to pretty much get rid of all the overlords that can be scattered around the map. Already almost killing off one here with that sentry.
Doesn't quite get it. That sentry, not known for its DPS as units go. Not quite able to pick it off. I think he did get another one in the middle of them, when the one that got sacrificed into his main did get taken out. However, Paranoid did spot the Stargate, so he knows what's up, and he'll be seeing the Phoenixes relatively quickly as well. Genius has got a nice little force of sentries and zealots, and he is poking at these lings at the bottom of his ramp with the mothership core. So I think he's gunning for a third base eventually. He's got up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gateways, which is quite a bit to have on 2 base. So it is possible that he goes into a timing from this. But knowing Genius, he's one of these players that I think is quite comfortable going 3 base against a third player.
But with all those sentries in the mix and not really making any move towards a third base, he might also go for the 2 base all in here with maybe some Void Rays. Yeah, definitely now he's blocking off his natural. That usually indicates that he's now gonna go for it. Also gonna take the probe here with him. Usually you see a Robo all-ins on 2 bases with the Warp Prism, but also of course a Stargate all-in is possible in a PVZ. Let's see how well it can work out for him. We see no upgrades though for the Protoss player, so those Zerglings can still work out very, very nicely here against the Zealots and the rest of the army. So, well, force fields are key right now for Genius.
They certainly are, and there are actually Lings working at his front door as well, having circumnavigated the Protoss army, and just really, really going to get some nice damage going down here.
Oh, they actually get past.
Through as well. The force field gets that put down late, but there plenty of Lings to come in, and another force field is going to evaporate soon. That is going to expire eventually, but meanwhile the gateway force coming out from Genius is pushed all the way up to the natural of Paranoid and is working on the Evo chamber as well. We've got 10 Hydralisks in production, so it's going to be able to get out a force that's going to be able to repel this eventually, but will it be too late as the force fields the ramp going into the main, and he's going to be able to absolutely gut this mineral line here.
Yeah, absolutely, those drones can go nowhere, they will eventually die. But with those 11 Hydralisks finishing up here any second, Paranoid might be able to push that back, even though they might not spawn at one location, so they might just drip in one at a time eventually here. So that is not really good for Paranoid. Another force field blocks off additional Hydralisks from the main, but more and more Lings are streaming towards the location here. Also the probes are helping to clean that off. Mothership core gets taken out. Also a lot of sentries die off here, and I think that all-in has been held. And Paranoid wins the first game.